you know.
Paul, where does your love of beauty come from? Now, first of all, that's been one of the criticisms of you, your alleged passion for the French clock. It's almost as though there's a means test applied, and Labor Party people aren't allowed to have good taste. Not that in my experience the other mob have much taste.
In my experience, only Labor Party people have good taste. You know, I used to always say to them over the other side, you know, they always thought that a Victorian hoop-back chair was a bee's knees, you know.
But where did the love of beauty come from? Because
I've always been run by my eyes and my ears, you know, I could never resist the look of something beautiful, you know. Principally, of course, what are the most beautiful things? Women. Then you move down after that to all the other things, the hand-me-down things. But I used to, when I was just 15 and I started work, I used to go around to Stanley Lipscomb's antique shop, and there were other devotees there. Leo Schofield used to be there. He was a window dresser at Farmers, and he'd go around there. We'd press our nose on the glass, and those days, of course, Leo had more front, but he always had more front than me, Leo. He was in there sort of, you know, managing things sort of for Stanley, and I got taught things. So the eye was receptive, but it needed guidance. You know, needed some honing.
Well, I find it, I've witnessed your performances instructing workers when you're doing up a house, and your attention to detail is, well, it verges on the fanatic. It's quite daunting. It certainly daunts them. And it interested me because the big picture man, here he is, concerned about the tiniest architectural detail. Yeah. Were you like that in politics? I mean, it reminds me of Napoleon, who, whilst he's marching on Moscow, is sending back instructions for the design of streetlights in Paris.
Oh, those things, I've often done that. I've often been on an overseas trip and sort of sketching back a thing, how we want to put a cornice up or something like that, and sending this sort of thing.
Now, I was talking about politics. When you were doing the big picture, were you also looking at the miniatures?
Oh, yes. I don't really think that you can get the big picture done without having all the bits of the matrix in place. You know, I mean, I would sit back after a cabinet meeting and wait till the note takers wrote the draft decision. Everyone else, a lot of the people would be gone home, and I'd sit there because I know that at 9 o'clock that thing would, that decision would go out to departments, and if it was wrong, I'd never recover it, you know. I'd never get it back. So I'd sit there and see what the words were, you know, and if I didn't think they were, if there was a nuance there that were, I wouldn't do this so often, but if there were nuances there I knew that were important, singularly important to all of this, that unless the note takers picked them up, then we wouldn't have the decision written properly, you see. And I think you can't accomplish a big thing without the detail. I mean, if you look at some of the greatest buildings, for instance, you know, just those, the light changes to the fenestration, you know, the shading, the engaged pilasters, you know, the micro-millimetres of shifts, the little sunken panels. I mean, it's what makes, when the eye picks up so much that when you run your eye across it, what makes it great is all of that, is all of the detail, you know.